toxic masculinity.
All right. Let's start the show. Darling, would you like to read the first story?
Yes.
Yes,
It's
brilliant.
Mike Lindell drops new election
Lindell?
video. Lindell?
We watch his advertisements literally every day.
I know he's as a Mr. Pillow guy.
No, Lindell.
Lindell. Oh, Lindell. Okay.
Yes.
Mike Lindell drops
So
new
offensive.
new election.
All right,
video.
let me read it. Mike Lindell's new film offers scientific proof of an election that may or may not have been perfect. Let's go ahead and... oh, no. Look what I've done. Look what I've done. Okay, I'll fix it. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Nope, not that one. This one. All right. Switch to...
People say it's called heavy head if you sleep for too long.
Heavy head.
Heavy head.
Heavy head. I did not know that. Thank
I
you,
didn't
guys.
know that either.
Yeah. I'm trying to come up with a joke with using the term heavy head, but nothing's coming to me.
Maybe later.
Maybe later. That's why we need Kurt on the show. We need a third person. We need Kurt to come up with the puns and the hilarious jokes. Okay. So Mike Lindell's new film offers scientific proof of an election that was perfect. Right, darling?
It was honest.
Yes.
Biden won.
Yeah. Nothing untoward.
Yeah, but it could be better. Biden could have win even more
Yeah.
if that would be perfect.
Then it would have been perfect.
Let's start there.
100% votes for Biden. That would have been totally fair.
Then
and
let's be
legitimate.
fair, okay? 99.
Yeah. Let's
0.9.
be realistic. Okay. Michael Lindell released a new documentary Wednesday that offers scientific proof that the election was, let's say, doctored, because I don't think that'll tick off YouTube too much. That was doctored. Let's just call it doctored. Now let's go ahead and play a clip of this because it's good. It's good stuff, and I think everybody should watch this. I liked his last documentary that he did. That seemed valid. There were a lot of people that criticized it, but Mike Lindell is saying, no. The criticism is all false, and his documentary was 100% accurate. He's very adamant about this. And, let me just say this before we watch this clip. Here's why I wanted to show that, well, 2 reasons I wanted to show this article. 1, I think everybody should go out and watch this video. 2, Mike Lindell is currently being sued by Dominion, and I think one of the other companies that he's been talking about. Maybe it's just Dominion. I may be wrong about who's being sued by, but he's definitely being sued by Dominion. Now, here's the thing about that. Ordinarily, when people are getting sued by a company for libel or slander, they don't continue to talk about that company. That's like a weird thing, because like normally, like sometimes, people become afraid that anything that they can say, anything that they say can and will be used against them in a court of law, right? Like the Miranda rights say. And so they think, okay, well, I better be quiet because they can maybe take something that I've said and manipulate it and say, oh, look, this person has slandered me or something like that. Mike Lindell is so confident that what he's saying is true and that what he said in the past is true that he's making a new video going after these people. And this is something of an attack for sure. But here's the thing. I actually think this helps him because in American law, which Valeria and I were talking about this before the show, in American law, you cannot be convicted of slander or libel. You can't get into trouble for that unless it's proved that you are knowingly lying, right? So if I say something nasty about my neighbor on this show here, they can't sue me unless what I'm saying is false or I know it's false, all right? If I produce some kind of news story, and the thing about that is the media lied about Trump a ton, and they definitely knew it was false, and we have evidence to show that they knew it was false. But the Trump administration never went after them, and I wish they had. I wish the media had been like taken down by slander and libel laws, because that's what they're there for. That's what they're there for. But in this particular case, if you have somebody who's not only not scared off by this company suing him for slander and libel, but rather doubling down and going ahead and making another video that slams them, well, that indicates to me that excuse me, even if everything he says is wrong in those videos, he believes it. He definitely believes it. And I don't think what he's saying is wrong in those videos. I think what he's saying is right. But even if they could come in and prove everything he's saying is wrong, unless they can prove he's intentionally lying about them, he can't get into trouble. Unless you have a corrupt judge. If you have a corrupt judge that's like owned by the Democrats, you can get into trouble. But in Russia, of course, they would just put you in prison without a trial.
That's true.
All right, so let's go ahead and watch some of this video. Just a little clip of it. It's not going to be too much. All right, hold on.
It's impossible to have this same glitch
every time
in every single county. And so far, it's been every single county you've done in the United States.
So far.
The same thing, the
Yes.
same machines, the same attacks,
Yep.
the same people,
Yes.
the same corruption that went on, the same crime against humanity
Yes.
was all across all the states.
So for me to get 1.000 and I'm a physicist, that ain't natural, buddy.
Right. So it couldn't be done by humans.
No, this
It's
is not by natural.
100% impossible.
No.
Had to be machines.
Yes.
And they had to be online.
Constantly online.
Constantly online, everybody. No way could you ever do that humanly to make all of them exactly increase the same percentage.
When I've shown this to other people, they've said, well, gee, how could people do that? And I say,
They
you couldn't.
can't. You can't. It has to be, machines.
Has to be.
And it rhymes with Dominion. And it rhymes with Smartmatic and ES&S. All these machines that were used out there. And it can be, once again, I just want you to say one more time, it cannot be done by humans.
Cannot be done.
And you have to have access before, during, and after.
This is too extensive. It could not be done by humans. It has to be done by computers. A room full of computers somewhere.
Right.
That's connected to the internet.
Anyway, that's a taste of what is in the Lindell video. I love it. I think it's fantastic that he's really pushing this even after the election's all over with. People aren't really talking about this anymore. Mike Lindell is still doing the research. He's still going into it. I mean, the way I see it, he's like an American hero, basically. Trying to save our democracy from, being doctored. Let's call it doctored.
Well, I think it's a good thing that he is pushing it forward, despite the fact that he's being sued.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, if he would back up, that would be terrible.
Right.
Because people won't like that.
Well, I mean, we would be less informed. Yeah, this is the thing about censorship and all this stuff on YouTube, because this you'd never be able to put this on YouTube. I mean, the whole video.
His already was censored. He was deleted from Twitter, I think.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Why can't people express ideas that they believe? We literally.
As if your ideas are different
than what they think is true.
Yes.
But the thing is, that's the whole point of freedom of speech. And a lot of these libertarians will say, well, it's a private company, they can block whatever speech they want. But I say this: if 1 million people being blocked are freed by one company being regulated a little bit, their speech being regulated a little bit, and the only regulation that they're being presented with is a regulation to not censor people. That's the regulation that they're being controlled by. If that's the only regulation that we need to put in place in order to give the freedom of speech to 1 million other people that they're censoring, then we definitely need to regulate the social media companies. You cannot censor people's freedom of speech. I think that it's completely unreasonable that they're doing that. And, I talk about it all the time on the show because I'm one of the people being censored. And it drives me nuts. But it drove me nuts even before I was being heavily censored. I mean, I was always being a bit censored, but it's gotten ridiculous now. But anyway, let's go ahead and look into this story. So this is from the War Room, Bannon's War Room. I don't like to read from them because their stuff isn't always super well vetted and researched. I've found articles that were not true on their site, so I don't usually use them. But this is the best article I found about this Mike Lindell thing, because he had an interview. If you keep watching that video, there's an interview Mike Lindell does with Bannon, and it's great. It's a great interview. Mike Lindell released a new documentary Wednesday that offers scientific proof the election was doctored. The film Scientific Proof features an hour-long interview with physicist Dr. Douglas G. Frank, who reveals a stunning algorithm used nationwide to control the selection, let's call it.
Selection.
There's only one truth here, Lindell said. This isn't anything between the truth. Isn't anything in between, and the truth is out now. The interview was so compelling, Lindell decided to release it separate from his upcoming documentary, Absolute Interference, which is set for release next week. And that will show the evidence of Chinese interference in the 2020 election. The film is a follow-up to Absolute Proof, his first documentary, seen by 140 million people. When I came out with Absolute Proof, all of that data, longitude, latitude, IP addresses, Lindell said, since that time, we took teams of people and went overseas and here to validate IP addresses. Lindell said the firm includes whistleblowers who have since flipped on Dominion. Lindell said the film offers 100% irrefutable evidence the election was doctored. I don't want to say that word because I'm afraid that this video will never be seen by anyone. All right. We took all the feedback from Absolute Proof and we said, okay, you want more? We'll get more. He said, every single thing in there scientifically we have proven, Lindell said. Where you physically go out and you say, this is real. Here's the computer. Here's the password to the computer. Here's where the vote was flipped. Lindell said the interview with Dr. Frank proves 100% this was a cyber attack, and it was across all countries. All counties. Yeah, that's actually one thing that he says in the interview that I thought was interesting. He actually says that this was a nationwide effort to manipulate the count. And I had all
every democrat like state, every
state. And the thing is, that was something that I had suspected in my research, because I had done a deep dive research into the
Even
doctoring.
Texas?
What do you mean in Texas?
Even Texas, they tried to.
Yeah, I think that because here's what my theory was, because I noticed that in a lot of places the votes seemed weirdly high for Biden in a lot of red areas, like deep red areas.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where Biden got most of his votes. So you would see in the blue areas, Trump actually got an increase in votes, and in the red area, Biden got an increase in votes. And I can understand Trump getting an increase in blue areas, and the reason because, I mean, he didn't win those areas, but like if Biden got 80%, or let's say Hillary Clinton got 80% and Trump got 20%, this time maybe Biden got 70% and Trump got 30%, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Trump just closed the gap a little bit. He didn't win the blue areas, but he just kind of closed the gap. The same thing happened in the red areas, in the red counties. Let's say in the previous election, Hillary got 40% and Trump got 60%. Well, now Biden would get like 49% and Trump would get 51% or something like that. He would close the gap. But I know most of you probably live in conservative areas. The places that I've lived in my life and the places that I visited and the people that I know who live in red areas are not places that are likely to shift blue at all.
Yeah.
Not only that, it's like the kind of people that live in red areas, even if they did start thinking that, maybe the left has a good idea, they're not going to vote for Biden. They're not going to vote for Biden. People in deep red areas of the country, deep red counties, they are like very pragmatic, practical people. They pride themselves in their pragmatism, their common sense, and they're actually smart. They're much smarter than people think. People think, farmers aren't that smart. Farmers are just these dumb hicks No, they're not. Every farmer I know is like super freaking smart. Like they all aced, their way through school and then, did well in college and then went back and ran the farm. Like every farmer I grew up with was really smart. One guy not smart. One guy I knew who grew up on a farm wasn't that smart. But everybody else I knew grew up on a farm is like freaking genius. It's really smart, really sensible, good people, good Christians, right? The people who end up becoming, there's just not that many that shift from blue to red. From red to blue. A lot of people shift from blue to red. Nobody shifts from Democrat to Republican. It's very rare. That happens. You hear about it all the time. There's a term for it. Red pilling.
Maybe there is a couple of people, but they all went to CNN, and then CNN was interviewing them. like couple.
Exactly. Yeah,
couple
there's like
guys.
2 people in the country,
Yeah, we know 2.
and then CNN found them. Unbelievably rare that somebody switches from conservative to a Democrat, or from Republican to Democrat. But the other way is very common. So this idea that there was all these people in red areas that shifted. So I started to see this trend all over the country, and I was saying, I don't think this is possible. I don't think it's possible that in all these deep red counties, Biden got all these extra votes now just because of mail-in voting.
No.
Like, there were all these lazy Democrats that were just like hanging out in these Republican districts, and then as soon as the mail-in voting came around, they were like, oh, I can vote now. That didn't happen. I'm sorry. That did not happen. So when Mike Lindell says that his research shows that this was happening all over the country in all 50 states, that supports my theory from the evidence that I saw, that I had figured out when I was doing this research. Now, I didn't put out as many videos about the election as I wanted to. One, because there was just so much data coming. It was like overwhelming. There were so many stories to do. Gateway Pundit had a lot of stuff on this, but I did a few videos on it. But I didn't do as many as maybe I should have. But that was one thing that was definitely I noticed, was that it was the red counties who won Biden the election, which is just not realistic. That's just not realistic. Okay, guys, I think that we've talked enough about this. I would like to say that if you that you should watch Mike Lindell's video. You can see it by going on to, let's see here, LindellTV.com, LindellTV.com. I do not have a link in the description, but I will put one there. Yeah, I'll put one there. Do you want to read the next? Do you want to read?
I?
Yes. Let's read the next headline.
YouTube plans to experiment with selectively hiding dislikes. Oh, now they're gonna switch all of my dislikes on White House to likes?
Not exactly.
Well,
No. What they're going to do is they're going to just hide the dislikes. Toxic Masculinity. Weekdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.